And all of a sudden, we're thrust into going to the Nationals in Ontario, Alberta, BC, 20 degrees warmer, playing like 10 games in a week where we're used to playing 2, playing against teams that play the ISC circuit. And we didn't know if the ISC was something you put in your cornflakes. We had no idea. We had no damn idea what ISC was. And
ladies man, but I'm unhappy now. For courting 6 girls all at once they used me.
Bye baseball.
My mother said it was naughty. I should kiss her goodbye. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very good.
And the Lolly drops his glove, grabs Dalton. The benches are clearing.
Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly is brought to you by CoolBet. If you got a few extra bucks rattling around in your arse pocket, CoolBet Sportsbook will double your first deposit up to $200 when you use the bonus code DUSTUP. Head over to coolbet.com and get in on the fastest growing entertainment sector in the world. That bonus code again is DUSTUP, one word, all capital letters, DUSTUP. Welcome back, folks. Episode 17 of Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly. It's 2022, Hilly, and looking forward to another great year of the podcast. Got some episodes under our belt, and really excited to kick the new year off with a bang. And we got our great buddy, Chris Abbott, here. We talked about it on the year in review episode. He's coming on here to co-host the episode with your old man, Johnny Hill. What do you think of it?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a different role for me. Probably going to take a backseat on this one and let our boy Abby drive the bus. But looking forward to talking with the old man. I mean, I hear these stories all the time over a few beers, but they never get old, man. And one thing Johnny likes to do is talk softball, and I think we're in for a bit of a treat tonight.
Absolutely. And we got Abby, you're back here. Your old hat on Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly, but we're bringing you back on to co-host this one. And what better guest can you ask for than John Hill?
Yeah, well, Happy New Year to you guys. Good to see your faces again. And sorry we're on lockdown, but that's just the way it is these days. It's good to be able to do these things and keep bringing people from the softball world together. I'm personally really excited to be a part of this. I mean, I've known John since I was born. He and my father played on the right side of the infield together for the Labatt senior team. So John's got like a 50-plus year history in the sport. He really is somebody who's driven the softball in Newfoundland and now Canada and internationally. So really cool to have him on and try and peel back some of the layers and get a coach's perspective because, for so long, not for so long, for the entire history of this podcast, we've talked to players and it'll be really cool to kind of get a perspective from like an administrator, manager, coach kind of position.
Yeah, he has a pretty cool story when we break it down, and it's something we're excited to share with our listeners. So without further ado, John Hill. Well, here we all are, fellas. We got Johnny Hill's episode going. Johnny, thanks for coming on and doing this. It's a special episode for us. We got all 4 newfies on here. We got Chris Abbott going to come on and help us co-host here. But how's things home for you in Newfoundland, Johnny?
all good. Got our Christmas season wasn't the best, but as I always say, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a heartbeat. So everything is good on this side to side.
Excellent. Well, this is going to be a bit of a unique episode, I think, for you, Hilly, because me and Abby are going to take the reins here with the questions. We're not going to have you on here and kind of interview your old man, but there's going to be a lot of stories because of all the guests that we've had on, there's probably Johnny Hill has the most that we could talk about, and it's a really cool story. Can't wait to get into it. But Hilly, this is a special episode for you too, bud.
Yeah, a bit of a different one for me here. We got the old man on tonight, but we got our buddy Abby leading the charge, and I think we're gonna have a bit of fun. It'll be good to talk to the old man. He's a hero of mine, not only in ball but a hero in life, and ultimately gave me my very first start in the game of fast pitch softball. So it's going to be fun.
That's excellent. Well, Abby, we've been talking about this now off and on for the last couple of weeks. So we brought you on here because you're one of the best at it. So we're going to throw it over to you to kick it off.
Yeah, well, hey, it's good to see all you guys again too. Especially you, John. I missed you over Christmas. It's been quite the couple of years. The three of us are all, flirting with 40, and as long as I've known softball, as long as I've known this earth, I've known you. How has the last couple of years been for a guy who's been a fast pitch lifer at the park all summer, traveling around and just having that kind of put on pause?
It's been tough, no question about it. Missed the game. Certainly, as you know, I love the game. I love watching. I love coaching, managing. For whatever reason, wherever I go to the ballpark, I feel like I'm a part of it, whether it's my team, somebody else's team. I have a real close connection to fastball, particularly here in Newfoundland, and since 2015, real close connection to softball in Canada as being part of the national team. Last 2 years has been really tough, a real downer. And all I say is that, well, you know what, like, things will get better. Things will get better. We've had a scattered trip, but not near as much as we want. But it is what it is. We're all living in this COVID era together, so we try to make the best of what it is.
Well, I mean, it's shocking to me that Bri just hasn't completely kicked you out of the house yet during all this. But so yeah, we started at the present, but let's go back and maybe we'll like a good movie that starts present day and then goes to the past and works its way back up to the present. Let's do that a little bit with your career here. So obviously, very well known person in the national, international softball community as it is. Multi-time Hall of Famer. You'll be in all of them by the time it's said and done. You started out playing in St. John's, playing the game. And at what point for you did you realize that, hey, this is more than something that I can do with my buddies? I'm going to make a go of this. I'm going to commit to being at the park, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 nights a week. And then what it's turned into over the years. Well,
believe it or not, it all started back in 1970. That's 52 years ago. And I tried out for a minor softball team in a local park here called Kelly's Brook, where the city of St. John's used to run a lot of minor softball programs. And I tried out for a softball team and I never made it. And I was pissed about it. And between the jigs and the reels, I grew up in a part of St. John's called Rabbit Town. And there was a guy there by the name of Fred Jackson Jr., and he started the foundation of the higher levels minor softball program in 1970, and I started playing there. And I played there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And from there on, I got a love for the game, and all our guys that I hung around with, we hung around in what we call the corner, on the corner of Calvert Avenue, Rankin Street, and every day we'd all meet. But every day we came here, we had our gloves and our bats, and we had a field like right across the street. So we hung out there pretty well 7 days a week, playing grounders and stuff like that. And very quickly, it became a passion of mine and a passion of the whole community of higher levels. And things started flowing from there, and the juices started going. I said, hey, guess what? Now this is going to be something that I'm going to pursue for the rest of my life. And 50 odd years later, I'm still at it.
I'd say hanging around in the corner in Rabbit Town 50 years ago, at least you'd want to have your bat with you.
Well, you need a lot more than a bat. You're damn straight. We got through it. Like there was times on Sunday mornings we were wondering what crowd were going to show up from Signal Hill or Quita Vida for a little bit of get back kind of thing. But it worked out okay. It was good. But yeah, we always had a couple of bats hanging around on the corner there for sure.
Johnny, when you were coming up, so we came up in an era where there was a really established senior ball circuit in the province within St. John's, something to go down and watch and strive to get to at an early age. When did top-level softball kind of come on your radar locally, and how did you get involved more on your junior and senior career in the game?
Well, we started back, and I'll go back to a higher level. And we started back in 1978. St. John's hosted the first ever Canadian National Championships, and it was a junior men's nationals. And higher levels had won the right to represent the province. And we played that year, and we went through it, and there was like thousands of fans down at Lions Park, and I mean like 5,000-6,000 people. And we played that tournament, and we ended up finishing second. And we lost to a team out of Saskatchewan. And Jerome Brocklehorse, who I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, he got the reputation that year as being called the Iron Man. And he was awesome that year. And we finished second in that tournament. And from there on, everybody said, hey, guess what? You know what? We can do better. We can do better. We're good. We're on the national scale. Competition-wise, and in 1979, Softball Newfoundland, or I guess it was before 79, but they applied to host the Senior Men's National for 1979, and they got it. And 79 was the first year that Newfoundland ever hosted a Senior National, and that year we finished third. And from there on, like it just, for me, it was a fever. You know, I just got addicted to it. And I was only a kid then at 19 years old, and I had garnered a lot of experience from playing as a kid in higher levels, and then later on as a 15, 16-year-old working at higher levels, helping develop the program, doing scheduling, umpiring, coaching teams. So for me, it became something that I became addicted to and something that I wanted to pursue for many years to come.
John, you know, some people who know us will know that when I was just a baby. You know, when you came into my life, Dad played second base, you played first place on the same team. And when I look back, my memories of those days, I remember you at the time being very fit, and a lot of the athletes of the time were not. And I know that you come from the law enforcement profession, so there was an element of that. But was it just you were fit because of your job, or did you put in that extra work to play at that level?
A little bit of both. Back in 79, when I was playing, I worked with a company, Bearden Company they were called, and I was a truck driver, and I was delivering 6,000-7,000 pounds of food every day to grocery store. So I had no choice to be fit, or I would have starved to death. So that part of it helped me. But yes, I always had a mission to keep myself fit, and I understood the game that being fit helped make you be a better ball player, and fitness was something that took a while here in Newfoundland to catch on. And it caught on, and I don't have to say any more about that because we know what the results were. But when you talk about, ball players in Newfoundland and Labrador, then we had some really good ball players, and fitness probably played a part in it. Exposure was the biggest part, but certainly being fit was also a part of the big picture.
Yeah, that's something I noticed when I got to meet you a little bit later on, when I was around 16, 17, back when I started living in your house for the summer with Hilly there on Babbage Street. And all I wanted to go lift a weight, right? Or go out and throw around the ball. But then Jason, all he wanted to do was go, okay, we got to do a run around the block. And I said, I don't want to go for a friggin' run around the block again. Let's just, we'll do a couple of push-ups and do whatever. And, soon to know that was pretty well instilled in him from you. And even to this day now, we're going to Hill United stuff. We'll have our practice. Johnny's out doing 10 or 20 laps around the whole complex while we're doing our BP. But Hilly, I guess that rubbed off on you growing up, seeing your old man play the game, keeping himself in shape, how he did that. How did that kind of rub off on you at a young age?
Well, yeah, I mean, I got to see Johnny play like senior nationals, and I got to see him play in IC. So I got to see him play at the highest level. So I know the caliber of ball that was out there and what it took to get there from what I seen with the old man. But for me, it was just something, I don't know. I played minor hockey and stuff growing up, and just like all of us, and we just wanted to be in shape, wanted to be that athlete, right? And it's funny you say it about the running and stuff, because I'm still trying to run today. I've gone the other way. I'm still don't like the weights; they're too goddamn heavy. So I still like a little jog, and it's a little getaway and stuff. But yeah, I try to keep in somewhat decent shape, and I just thought it was important to play at the highest level.
So, John, I want to expand on a couple of points you've touched on. I think it fits in very well at this point. So, you talked about the junior tournament where you guys finished, in the medals, and then you talked about 79 where you guys had a good run as well. And on my cheat sheet here, I see played in 10 senior national championships, winning 3 medals, but never the gold. And I think there was, when you fast forward to the success that Newfoundland and Labrador teams have had over the last number of years, I think there's a little bit of a perception outside the province and honestly inside the province that success has come from a fall off of other provinces. There's not as many teams in Ontario. There's not as many teams in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan as there was. But you guys were always right there. So I'd like to get your perspective on just kind of where the province was nationally at the time when you were playing. Obviously, we all know the success that's come in between, but set the record straight there that Newfoundland teams were always competitive at these national tournaments.
Look at here. I'll tell you something. That's bullshit to start off with, and I'll tell you why. Do you know what? I went to a lot of nationals over the years, 10 of them all together, and we had some super duper ball players, national caliber ball players. But I always thought because of the media, and we get the reports after we come home, Newfoundland chokes, Newfoundland couldn't do it, blah, 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 like that. And you know what? They had everybody believing that's exactly what happened. But you know what? We went to the Nationals. We were playing 2 games a week here in Newfoundland in the 80s and early 90s. 2 games. We had one tournament, the St. John's Day tournament, and we had the provincials amongst ourselves, like 50 ball players, maybe 55. Ball players, and all of a sudden we're thrust into going to the Nationals in Ontario, Alberta, BC, 20 degrees warmer, playing like 10 games in a week where we used to play in 2, playing against teams that played the ISC circuit, and we didn't know if the ISC was something you put in your cornflakes. We had no idea. We had no damn idea what ISC was, and we're playing against these teams, and they got like 70, 80, 90 games, and we're on probably our 15th or 20th game. We're going to a national. First time off the all summer. Trying to mingle in a little bit of a vacation with a national tournament. And we did well. We always did well. And we faltered on the weekend, and everybody said, oh, okay, well, the Newfies, you know what? Play them during the week. You're going to lose. Play them in the week and you're going to win. But the bottom line is that we ran out of gas. We were not used to playing all these games in a short period of time, and we were fatigued. We were worn out. We were burnt out. And then we're playing against pitchers that, played against the best hitters in the whole world. And later on in my life, and I'll say, within the last 4 or 5 years, I started realizing, I said, hey, I'm damn proud of what we did at the Nationals. For a small province, a province of 5 teams to play 20 games and to go to the Nationals and never play a tournament as long as we played and do as well as we did, I'm damn proud of it. Damn proud of what we did. And you know what? We got brainwashed by the media saying, hey, you choked. We didn't choke. We excelled. And I'll tell you right now, back in the 80s and 90s, if our ball players had the opportunities that the current ball players have right now, we'd have won national championships back in the day. We just did not have the opportunity because the skill was here, the talent was here. There's more leagues in Ontario, Alberta, and BC when we were playing. There's more leagues than what we had players.
Yeah, that's nuts. And we've talked about this several times on previous episodes of the podcast about there's been a lot of trailblazers come from the province that set the stage. Comes up a lot. Yeah, there was a lot of heartache, a lot of dues being paid, a lot of losing to get to where we got. But I'm glad you brought that up, Abby, around the perception that Newfoundland is winning because the competition isn't as stiff. I'd argue that all day long. But all the same, there was a lot of competition back in your era, John. But you guys, you went to 10 senior nationals as a player and you medaled. But when you transitioned into coaching, and this is going to be a theme throughout your episode because it's a great story you have from playing, then coaching minor, coaching at the provincial and national level, and then into your international career. But when we tell your story, it kind of tells the story of Newfoundland softball in some regards, right? Where we kind of developed from a a local, provincial, passionate sport to being on the map. So what you've observed since you stopped playing to now, what Newfoundland has done over, call it your coaching era, what stands out the most to you about where the game has gone in Newfoundland over the last, call it 20 years?
So I'll go back right to when back in 1984, 96, when I was living in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, and we formed a minor softball program back there, and there was no minor program. And the program grew in 3 years from 0 to over 300 kids. And in about 2000, we started winning provincial championships, and we had a group of kids that were hand selected from the kids that registered for the program, and started working with those kids. And I started looking at them. We started going to Eastern Canadians, and I said, "Hey, guess what? We got something good going here. We got some good ball players. Like if kids want to commit themselves to playing softball, then we can do something on the national level." And we started doing that. We started practicing every day, pretty well every day, and then. And the winter times we practice on Sundays up in the gymnasium where I used to work. We had a gym up there, and we went out, and I could see the talent was there from the minor level. I could see the ball players that were there, and then we blossomed into midget. So I said, "Hey, guess what? We got something going here. We have it, but we got to get our shit together in Newfoundland, and we got to get our shit together with the associations, ball players, and make this work because we have it."
There's so much in that we gotta get into, but before we do, it's Hilly. You grew up in a household that was, and Hilly now, and Jason, you grew up in a household where it was, softball was dominant, but you had your old man start these leagues and these all-star teams. What was it like, growing up with that when he got on a mission to start all this, and that came with you coming along for the ride? What was that like?
Yeah, man. Like, listen, I had nothing, and I wouldn't even be able to tell you when I started playing softball. So I guess it was around 1996, from what you're saying. So I mean, we had nothing, and I remember playing, and we started a little house league down there, and we had the old convenience stores. Remember Abby, old Wales back, and Sharps were teams, and Needs Convenience was a team, and we just started playing. And I was playing against, amongst my own crowd, and then I get a scattered call up to Abby and those in his league, and it was just a bit of fun. It got us out of the house, and then we started looking forward to it. And then we, all of a sudden, one year we went from T-shirts. Now we got the pants and the T-shirts, and then we started playing some all-star teams. You select an all-star team, you go to provincials. We got shit kicked for a few years, and then you start to win some. And I'm like, holy, you know what? It's the same thing we feel when we start the ISC circuit, but it was at the minor level. And I was like, man, you know what? Like Johnny was saying, we got something here, and I lave it.
Well, first of all, I won't be allowed back in Portugal Cove. You listed off all the sponsors except the two from my family. So if you don't give Canes and the Cozy Corner and some love,
Canes and Cozy Corner, that's right.
Back in, so.
John, I have this written down here because it's interesting to me. And what was involved in creating a league like that from scratch? I know you had a vision of getting more softball being played in your local community, and with the broader goal of growing the youth game across the province. What was involved? What got you to take that on your shoulders, and how did you get it to be one of the most successful youth organizations in the province?
Living in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, and I said, I ain't driving to St. John's every friggin' 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to set up my own softball program down in the Cove, and there wasn't one there. And I had 2 neighbors that were on the council, and I approached them and said, I want to set up a minor softball program in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's, and I want $2,500 from council. And one of my, and who the hell are you? I'm nobody. I'm just somebody that's interested in setting up a minor softball program for the community. So if you don't want to, present a letter, I'll go and I'll, present it myself. But I want to set up a minor ball program here. And he said, well, don't you come. He said, I'll just present your letter and see where it goes. So and I said, by the way, when you're talking to them, tell them if they don't want to give me $2,500, I'm going with the program anyway, because I'll get support from the community. And about 2 weeks later, he called me. He said, I don't know how. He said, well, you got your 2,500. And I said, okay, perfect. And then we went and got 8 sponsors, and we had one ball field, and George King, he was RNC, retired Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, remember, police officer, and he was the church organizer for the Anglican Church in St. Philip's, and they had an old field there on Thorburn Road. It was like grass right up to your Jesus armpit. No thanks. So I went to him and I said, we got the program going for kids. I said, anyway, we do the field. He said, John, this field is like, I said, we'll do it. We'll mow it. We'll clean it up. We'll make it work. And he said, liabilities and that. And I said, just tell me where I got to sign and I'll just do it. Right. So anyway, signed away my life and we set up and got a bunch of volunteers, and we did the ball field in Thorburn Road, and we did one in Portugal Cove, and it just grew and grew and grew, and it became a huge program, and we had huge support from the community. Like, that's one thing about small communities, and Chris will attest to this, that, you know what, it was a phone call, and you talk about minor softball, minor sports, then the community is 100% behind you. So, and we had one guy, my friend Paul Butler, he ran Kento Doors and Windows. And I said, Paul, you know what? Like, you're throwing in money here every year. Why don't you just come out and sponsor this All-Star team? He said, Johnny, I'm in. And he threw in a bunch of money and stuff. And so we started traveling, doing Eastern Canadians. And I looked at it and I said, guess what? Like, we're close. We're really close here. And we can do it. We can do it. And if we get this exposure, we get to travel and play and compete against the best, and then we can do it. And it was a vision of mine from day one. And I never, ever won a senior men's national, but I always knew we had the talent to do it, but we couldn't get it together here. It was always like a Robbie O'Brien, a friggin' Sean Whitten, Sean O'Brien, somebody knocking us out, like other players. Newfoundland was playing for other provinces and that. And I said, you know what? We can do this, but we got to get our shit together here in Newfoundland. And that's put me on a mission. And you know what? A lot of a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, believe it or not, more internally than externally. But you know what? That's what the vision was. And I never ever won a senior national. I said before John Hill starts pushing daisies up in the grass, we're winning the goddamn national.
Well, John, I tell you, I had forgotten all about that field on Thorburn Road. I remember it now. A home run was when you hit the ball and it rolled into the grass and nobody could find it. That was
exactly, yeah.
In the outfield, there was no fence. I think there might have been one there at one point, but it had been trampled. And anyway, as a kid who grew up in that community, we have to thank you for that, because it wasn't just like the few of Jason's buddies that played. Every kid, boy and girl in that community, with the exception of very, very few, played in that league. So for a number of years there, that was that was our summers. So you probably don't get thanked for it very often. And it's not that there was a ton of world-class ball players that actually came out of that league. But, on an aside, we always talk about the highest levels of the game and all that. But you gave, for however many years it was, all those kids had their summer looked after.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved every minute. And I loved the kids having something to do. And I loved it watching them playing softball and stuff. And you know what? I sat down and said, let's get this program going. And then I started looking around and I said, okay, you know what? Like, after a year, we're going to get the good kids. And I've always said, like, everybody has a right to play, okay, house league, but to play All-Star is a privilege. Now, that's my motto. I've always stuck with that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to grab a bunch of kids here now, see if they're interested in further developing their skills. And that's what I did. And you know what? It never interfered with the house league play. But you know what? I'd say about 3 years, Portugal St. Philip's minor softball made a name on the provincial and national scale. And I always modeled our program after Conception Bay Central, because back in the day then, Conception Bay Central were it. They were it. You had to get past Conception Bay Central. Placentia were half, and we were new kids on the block. And I always said, like, you know what? If we're going to win this, we got to model ourselves after CBC. They had young Cleary and a bunch of good other kids going there. And I said, we got to practice. We got to play. We got to practice. And in 3 years, we'll beat these guys. We'll beat them. And that was the mission. That's what I brainwashed those young fellas with 12 and 13-year-olds. And they bought into the program. And we did it. It happened. It worked, right? So it provided a lot of confidence in those guys to say, hey, you know what? If you work hard for something, you can make it happen.
Yeah. Well, when we're telling this story and we're working our way up through, but a lot of the Newfoundland softball story has to do with some important John Hill decisions along the way that created an environment. We've talked about it a couple of times on here about how is the men's game in particular going to make a resurgence, and it's not the players that are going to do it. It's people need to organize and create these things that people can come together with. And you did a great job right from the grassroots of that. But the next real milestone that jumps out to me was the Canada Games program for the 2001 Canada Games. All of us were a part of you making that decision to get the tryouts going, to start bringing together a team that could compete. And it started, I've told a story multiple times about when you had the identification camp. I think we were 14 or 15 years old. You had Colin Abbott come out to that. There was around 300 kids down in Bannerman Park. That's when the Canada Games kind of came on the radar. But you, along with your group and committee, started that. And there was a couple of big things once the team was picked that stand out to me I know for Jason and I in our career. When you got that Canada Games team playing in the junior circuit as a team in the junior league and a team in the senior league, that gave the players on that team an opportunity to play 8 games a week against some of the best ball players on the island to set us up for success at the Canada Games. But can you actually, I'll throw it to Jace for a second, because we went through that whole time. Like, when you and I look back on our career, that Canada Games really paved the way for us getting good at the game and taking it seriously.
Well, yeah, I guess when we got put into the senior league, I think we did a couple of rounds, did we? Is that what it was? Or
yes.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden, you guys we're doing inter squad and stuff. You're facing me and Cozy and I don't know, maybe who Brent Roach, maybe Adam Janes. And then now we're facing Ward Goss on a Tuesday night, or Jason McHugh, or George Pomeroy, or whoever it was. I don't know if the Davises were around then, but anyway, we're facing these established guys, and then we're like, holy shit. But what you were trying to instill in us was, this is the caliber of pitcher, or this is the caliber of ball that you're going to face when you face we'll call them all-star teams from every other province, from BC, from Ontario, from Saskatchewan. And, to see that, and we see it today. I mean, the junior program plays in the senior league, and all of that is done to get these guys ready for the next level. And, I think it did wonders for us, and it certainly helped us compete on the national level. We fell a little short, of course, but yeah, man, I can't say enough about it.
Johnny, when you look back at that program now, do you have an appreciation for how important and impactful that has been on where softball in Newfoundland has gone since then?
Without a doubt. Back in 2000, we went to Nova Scotia for the Midget Nationals, and there was some political debate about sending our guys that were not going to be old enough for Canada Games. So we had Johnny Kelly, Blair Ezigal, they didn't allow them to come to our Midget Nationals in 2000 Nova Scotia, and we didn't do well. We lost the first 3 games, and then we ran off 4 wins or something like that. But we didn't have our best players, because the softball Newfoundland said that only players who go into the Midget Nationals are Canada Games kids. So we lost it was 3 or 4 guys that could have helped us win the Midget Nationals, and we shit the bed. We never made the playoffs. Then, you know what, when we came to 2001, that summer we had a great summer ball, and we had some great ball players, and I don't have to tell you guys the stories about Saskatchewan, because we went 5-0, and then we lost a couple of tough games, got bounced out in that. But you know what, the key to success is that you always push your athletes one step ahead. And we've been known for that in Newfoundland, and anybody here who's listening right now know that. You know what? Newfoundland is famous for pushing midgets up to junior to senior, and they excel at those levels. And that's very true. And that's what we did when we went to the Canada Games, and we do it right now to this very day. We got our young junior kids playing the senior program, and this past year in Saskatoon for the Rolling Cups, the boys finished second. And so it goes to show, if you got athletes that got their heads screwed on right, they don't get brain screwed because they're not hitting top-notch pitchers, and they can understand what it's all about, then you got something good going for yourself right now. And you know what? In the last 15 years, it's paid off for us because we've been pushing guys, good athletes, pushing them ahead. They understand what the program is all about because it's been here for a while, and it's making them better ball players.
So, John, I think one of the reasons the guys brought me in this week is because I can step back from the relationship that the three of you guys have and ask some questions. So, the Canada Games experience with these guys as kids. I mean, you're kids. You're absolutely kids. To the point where they are now, and you've been with them every step of the way. Can you reflect a bit back on just like the rawness of a Steve Mullally or, Jason being a couple of years underage, or any other players that stand out to you on that team, and just kind of how that was setting in motion what their careers turned out to be?
Yeah. Well, two of them guys were assholes. They both needed attitude adjustments. And they were good. Like, Lally was the senior player, and he was good. Jason was a young, just coming into Canada Games age, but, the young fella had a bit of talent and stuff like that. So we took him. It was only me. Huey Clark was on my coaching staff and Ross Cocker, so we all agreed to take him on. But, coaching at that level, like 17, 18, 19-year-olds, believe me, it's a challenge at best. But when you got guys on your team like your son and Mullally, who's my second son, and it's tough. It's tough to do, but you know what? You make these guys believe in what they're doing, and it works. And we, like the Canada Games in 2001 was a start, was the beginning of a career that carved out for many ball players coming out of this province.
Okay, I've got a follow-up question, but it looks like they want to respond to the asshole comment. So
I just want to say sorry to Michael. Michael just got bumped to third. He's the second.
That's Michael. Well, Mike was gone when I moved into your house back for the whole Canada Games program. I basically lived at your guys' house in the summer and then every weekend while I was in university. So, Mike was gone doing bigger, better things than what we were at. But there's a few things I got to respond here with. First of all, no, not an asshole. That rubbed off on me from being in the Hill household. I was just an innocent young fella coming from freshwater Newfoundland until I got exposed to you two. But it was, looking back now, for me, there's a number of moments, a handful that were very important, and I don't think any of the things that happened after them would have happened if it wasn't for those things. And we heard about the stories of missing the tryout. First time I talked to you, Johnny, was when I called you from the rotary phone in the kitchen of my place. Bride picked up, and I think I called 4 John Hills before I got the right one and asked if I could come to the tryout. And if that doesn't happen, I don't know what I'd be doing. And then that it just sets off in motion friendships, experiences, and fast forward 20 years later, and we're sitting here talking about all those experiences on a podcast. But that was very special, very impactful when we went to that Canada Games. And then it was a pretty quick turn of events. And I don't know if you remember back in 2001, because Jason called me. It was my first semester of university. And he said, Dad just came downstairs and said that there's an opening in Frankenmuth, Michigan, looking for a young ball player, and he talked to the coach, and I'm moving down there in the summer. And I nearly came through the phone out of jealousy. I said, well, fuck, he's not going if I'm not going. It's as simple as that. And then that was the year that the ISC came on our radar. Jason went to Frankenmuth. He was 18 years old. I went to Ashland, Ohio. I was 19 years old. Was that when the ISC started to come on your radar? And what do you remember about kind of that stage of all of our softball careers?
So back in 1988, we won the Midget Nationals in Napanee, Ontario. Colin Abbott was a player on the team. He was a stud pitcher then, and a stud hitter, as he always has been. And Colin was part of that team. And after that year we won, Colin went out to Alberta, I think. Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he went to Alberta for 2 years. And
he went to Lloydminster, so I'm not sure which side of the street he lived on, but he was either in Alberta or Saskatchewan. I'm not sure.
And he won some national championship at Lloydminster. And from there, he traveled down to Wisconsin. It wasn't the farm, but it was another team, Green Bay, Alcar from Green Bay. And that's where Colin's career started back in 1990. And then in 1994, Newfoundland sent a team to PEI. Summerside hosted the ISC Worlds, first time ever. We sent a team out of Newfoundland. And so I got 2 doses. I was following Colin forever because I was friends of Colin was, he probably our bat boy when Vern and Keith were playing and stuff. Then later on, Colin played in the same team that we played. So I got a little dose of what the ISC was all about, and said, you know what, like if our guys are going to do something softball and the international level, then they got to learn, they got to play the ISC circuit. And that's when my eyes opened up and I started looking around and saying, hey, you know, we got some great ball players here, but they need to go away. They need to play on the international level, make names for themselves, and see what they got, because I knew they were good ball players. And I knew, like, when we played, we were good ball players. Like, gentle Jesus, you couldn't, like, fellas like Dick Davis, Dave Boland, Billy Windsor, Ronnie Boland, Joe Boland, and the list goes on. Like, these are, like, world-class ball players, but who the hell is going to take a chance on these guys when they only see them once a year at the Canadians for 4 or 5 ball games? Nobody. They got hot for a weekend or whatever. You know, no one's going to take a chance on them. So we needed to get our guys going away to get international experience and get used to playing the circuit. Play it every weekend and bring out your skill sets and see what you got on the table. And that started like in 2003, like you said, when Jason went to Frankenmuth, and I remember a lot of you calling me and said, what the hell's on the go here? Where is Jason going? I said, well, he's going down to Frankenmuth, Michigan. Well, where the hell is Frankenmuth, Michigan? and I told him a story. I called my good friend Tom Stasic, we're all good buddies with Tom and stuff anyway. And I said, look, I don't think Lally is going to work because Jake's going to go down and stay with Tom and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that. And I said, but log into this website and I think there's opportunities here. And you said, God damn it. You said, if Jason's going away, I'm going. Yep. And 2 days later, you called me back and you said, I think it was Craig Scott, maybe from Ashland. You said, I'm going away I'm going to Ashland. And I said, great, awesome, right? So you guys went away and you spent the summer, you and Ashland and Jason and Frankenmuth, and I think you guys probably played a couple of tournaments in the same tournaments because down weekends and you're only like 4 or 5 hours apart and stuff. So outside of guys like Sean Whitten, who moved away to live. Robbie O'Brien went away to live. Sean O'Brien went away to live. Colin Abbott was the first guy really that went on weekends. You know, he traveled weekends. And after that, then you look at you and Jason, right? You were the guys that said, okay, we're going to start doing weekends. And you guys, you know, in 2003, you guys played well, of course. And then went to 2004. Then Blair Esigo went away, Sock Evely, Stephen Jesso, and a few more guys that I'm probably missing went away and played. And all of a sudden, like, holy shit. Yeah. Who are these guys like, right? And that's when we started making a name for ourselves. And then it became much easier to get a game on the international level for Newfoundland ball players because you guys set the stage, you know, regarding traveling back and forth, and you're available to do that stuff. And it just resonated from there. And then it went on into, you know, the late 2000s. I'm sure we're going to talk about Newfoundland at the Canadian National, stuff like that. So I'll stop right here.
Well, Johnny, let's chat about that right now because you played a huge role in the success the province has had, but we also know that there's been some challenges along the way. So can you talk a little bit about how you got started coaching Newfoundland at the Canadian Senior Men's Nationals and what that whole experience was like for you?
I watched the development of Newfoundland ball players, and I said, there's something happening here. There's something going to happen. But we couldn't make it happen in Newfoundland because we ran into some obstacles within the province regarding, you know, sending all-star teams to the nationals and stuff. And there was a lot of ambiguity here in Newfoundland regarding us sending our best ball players, because traditionally we have the team that wins the provincials get to go to the nationals, and often we'd send not our best team, and we'd have to raise like $20,000 or $30,000, and then we had guys or players that weren't on the winning team getting contacted by other provinces saying, come play with us. You don't have to sell any tickets, and we'll pay for your hotel, pay for your airfare, kind of thing. And so we were losing guys every year to top level teams, and we were going to the nationals, and we weren't winning because we didn't have our best team. And we embarked on a mission to try and get our best team going to the nationals, and we ran into a lot of obstacles within our own senior league to begin with, because we had a group of players, and I'm not saying nothing bad against these guys, I respect them all, but they said, look, the only prize we got is to win a provincial to get a chance to go to the national. I understand that. I'm all over it. I agree with it. My eyes were bigger, right? I had a bigger fish in mind, and I wanted to win a national championship, something that had eluded Newfoundland for over 50 years. And my eyes were on the big prize. And I knew we had the talent. I knew we had the skill sets to do it, but we had to make it work. And we ran into a lot of obstacles with the local league. And then when we won nationals, we ran into problems with the provincial association. Now, I'm not getting into that one too much because you'll have me on here for 5 hours. So, but anyways, between it all, we managed to convince our ball players to, Junior Bruce, 3 cheers, Paul Bud Light, Colin Abbott, and myself, we set out and said, look, we got to win a national championship for Newfoundland. And when we start winning, we're going to win. And the whole country knew it. And I'll never forget it when Sean O'Brien said to me, and Sean played with us in 2010 in PEI, we came third. He said, Hilly, you guys start winning national championships, you ain't going to lose. Everybody knew the talent was there. We just had to put it together. And in 2010, we finished third. 2011, we went up to Owen Sound, Ontario, and we ran the table. And then Kitchener brought in some kid named Todd Martin. I don't know. I never heard much about him, but he and Robbie O'Brien, and they won, and we came second. And then 2012, in New Brunswick, we won in 13-14, and the rest is history in that. So, but it was a battle getting there. But you know what? The talent was there. The ball players, I look at the ball players. I look at the Jason Hills, the Steve Mullally's, these guys that sacrificed every summer, traveling all summer. And everyone says, yeah, it's great. It ain't as great. Just ask them. It's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of commitment, but their passion and their love for the game resonated onto a hell of a lot of more ball players. And you could see the rewards that we've captured. And, Ryan Boland, Shane Boland, Brad Ezegal, Blair Ezegal, the list goes on, Sean Cleary and Kyle Ezegal. So, you know what we've done? We've turned the tide. We've turned the tide. And we've resonated as a group and made a commitment to play for Newfoundland and win some national championships. And I don't got to talk about that because we all know where we've been. So, you go back to the 70s and 80s and 90s. Now we're into this era here, and proof's in the pudding.
Absolutely, it is, and I would love to get you going on provincial associations and league executives. That would be a lot of fun, but we don't need to make any enemies, I guess, right now, more than we already have. Johnny, so you won the nationals multiple times, and then the eyes start to turn to the international stage, and I'm curious about that transition because it's very, very obvious about your passion for Newfoundland softball and the guys from home and the senior league that you've been affiliated with for years and years and years. But at some point, then the motivation also included international championships, both club team and representing the country. So how'd you get into that side of things? Because that's a very exclusive coaching fraternity.
Okay, so I'm Johnny. I'm coaching national championships, and I'm knocking on the door all the time. And we're trying to build something. And I think people out there realize what we're trying to do. And in 2012, in New Brunswick. We won the national championship. Some kid, Mullally, hit like 13 hits, 11 or more home runs, and we won. We won the national championship that year, our first time in like 56 years. And the rains came down.
John, I want to cut you off, and I hate to do this, but while we're talking about all those home runs Mullally hit, I have to tell the story. While that was going on, I was in a bar in Gander, and I ran into Dick Davis. And I said, Dick, what do you think about what's going on with Mullally hitting all these home runs? He said he only would have got 5 if we were playing.
Yeah. If he was lucky. If he was lucky.
I believe it.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that was one of the funniest things I ever heard. He said he never would have did it against us.
He'd have had sore ribs. And that year, like in 2012, it was unbelievable. And Lally, and I don't want to blow his horn here now, but his hitting performance, and he's had some sense, but that episode in 2012 in Fredericton was something that I've never seen in my lifetime. All he had to do was put the bat on the ball. It was traveling over the fence, and it was phenomenal. But anyways, so we won in 2012, and it was rain delay, and my heart was broken. And I remember going back to the hotel, and all the boys were there in the hotel room, anxiously waiting, uniforms on and stuff. And I talked to Colin and said, Colin, look, we just got awarded the national championships because they tried to clean the field up, and it pissed rain again, like twice. I said, the goddamn softball gods were working against us for years. Now the rain gods are kicking in, you know? And so anyways, we broke the news and we celebrated and party, but it wasn't what we wanted because we had a lot of fans up in New Brunswick and stuff. So we celebrated first national, and then we said, God damn it, we're going to go back again in 13. And we had the issues straightened away with softball Newfoundland per se. And so we went back up to Stratford and Bradley Ezigal hit the walk off of Paul Court. I think it was in the 7th or 8th inning, and we won in Stratford, and then in PEI in 2014, and again in 15-16. But anyways, that was the start of the rise of softball Newfoundland, and when it relates to Canada, plus the whole world, because now people are saying, oh my goodness, there are a lot of good softball players in Newfoundland, and that's when I start getting phone calls from abroad, from teams from the United States, that's saying, John, do you have a second baseman or a third baseman? I say, well, you don't even know who he is. Well, you know what? If you recommend him, he comes from Newfoundland and he's a good ball player. And that's how it started. And after we won in 2014, that fall, John Stewart was the assistant coach at the time of the men's national team. And he became head coach in 2015. Yeah, he became head coach. And he called me and he said, John, look, he said, I'm head coach. We need an assistant coach for the national team. We don't have time for applications. I'm wondering if you're interested in becoming part of the men's national team. And he said, don't answer me right now. Don't say a word. He said, take 24 to 48 hours and call me back. I said, okay, Mr. Stewart, no problem. So it was like 24 hours and 1 minute later, I called him. And we passed 24 hours. He said, yes, we are. I said, I'll take it. Right? So he had been to some nationals. He had been like as a scout and assistant coach for the national team. So he was watching what we were doing. And I guess he felt, enough confidence in me to ask me to come on board. And he saw the development and the growth of ball players in Newfoundland. I think at the time we probably had like 4 or 5 Newfoundlanders on the national team. So I guess he felt fit that it'd be okay to have a coach from Newfoundland on the national team. So that's when I joined the national team in 2015.
Similar to some of the other episodes where we had Bradley on or Ryan Boland or whoever, we get to talk about the local, talk about provincial, national, and international, right? And it's so cool, the story you have from the coaching aspect, to be able to experience and work hard and have that recognized and create those opportunities and have success at every level. I'm sure we'll get into the ISC in a minute and your kind of journey within there. But when I think back specifically to the ISC for a second, and I'll throw this to Jason, back in 2007, That's another one of those key moments, I think, just in the progression of softball and our journey on here. But in 2007, Hilly played with the farm at the ISC tournament. And Jace, when you won that alongside Colin Abbott, first time ever, two Newfoundland ball players played on a team that won an ISC championship. I know how special that was for you. John, you were there taking that in as a parent and a fan. But Jace, I know you look back and you saw your dad watching that, and you talk about going out to dinner, but do you have an appreciation that it was kind of the itch for him to be involved in the ISC at that point?
Yeah, I mean, sure. For me personally, obviously, we talked about it a bunch of times. It was a dream come true, and Johnny's coached me my whole career, right from T-ball or whatever it was, right to where I was in Franklin, would say. And, to get to that level, that was 07. So it was only 03 I played my first ISC. And same year, I played the under-19 ISC in Kimberley, Wisconsin. And I remember finishing up our championship game, and Colin, those guys with the farm were playing right after us. And I think they were playing County Materials. So we got our little tiny under-19 plaques. And then the County Materials was coming on the field, and the Farm Tavern was coming on the field. And I'm passing these guys. And to me, there's monsters of men. And these are the guys I'm looking up to right now. And I'm holy shit. And I was that's where I want to be. And it was only 4 years later that I was playing with these guys, Colin Abbott, who was obviously a hero of mine, hometown. And like I said, so Johnny coached me the whole time. To have him in the stands and to witness that. And I had a pretty decent tournament. I was fortunate enough to play well that week. For him to look at all that and then come on the field and then get to hold the trophy with him and take pictures with him, man, it was one of the coolest experiences in this game that I've had to date.
Yeah. Aside from being jealous that we lost, it was pretty cool for me as your buddy at that age, knowing everything that's happened and the sacrifices and hard work to get to that point. Obviously knew how special that was for you. But Johnny, when you think back to that 2007 ISC championship game and you got to see your son who you've coached, started him off in an association that you created and watched him get to that point, how special was that for you as his father?
Well, to be very honest, I cried like a baby. I remember leaning up against the canteen, was up in the top level. I just left of the canteen, sitting up against the wall, and the tears were running down my eyes. I said, "Sweet Jesus," and then it was Colin, right? It was Colin Abbott, because he was the ISC rep for Newfoundland, and obviously arguably the best softball I ever played. And I played with Colin. I coached him in Canada Games in 1998, and here I am right now watching Jason Hill playing with the Farm Tavern, as a 23-year-old, and here they are. I think they beat the SoCal Bombers that game in the championship, and I'm just leaning up against the wall, and tears are running down my eyes. I'm crying. I'm crying. I'm saying, "Holy gentle Jesus!" This is absolutely amazing, and that in itself put the devil in me and said, "We're going. We're doing better than this. We're going." And you then, Stephen, you were on the mat. Then you did Ashland for 2003, 2004. You went to Frankenmuth, played for a year with the boys, and we had a good year that year down in Frankenmuth. And then 2006, I think you moved out to Ontario, and Jason, I think went to. I think he went to
Town Line. I stayed.
Yeah, and you went to Aspen, and we went down in 2000. I think it was 2004 or 5. Under 23 was down in Wisconsin, and we had Jason and Blair Ezigal, Johnny Kelly, and we took two kids, Evan Connors and Leon Cantwell, who were playing ball up in Ontario, and 5 of those guys, and plus some kids from Frankenmuth, we went down to the under 23 in Wisconsin that year. And I think we gave up one run. We ran the table. I think we never lost the game anyway, and we won that under 23. And then my eyes are opening really wide and saying, "We got good ball players here. So let's make it happen," So, when things things like that happening back in 2004, 2005, and you guys were young bucks, and you're only just Jesus, just out of Pampers, and you guys were playing well, and said, "There's something here." there's something here, and we got to make it work. But like I said before, our biggest obstacle was within our own association, and then we had some. After we started winning, we had some political battles with softball Newfoundland, but it all worked out.
Well, folks, we've been involved in a lot of tough games over the years. And after those, we like to debrief with an ice-cold Miller Lite. With its great Pilsner taste and only 90 calories and 3 grams of carbs per serving, after every tough game, it's always Miller time. Please drink responsibly.
You mentioned something about arguing black and blue, and that got me thinking about the color scheme of the Hill United Chiefs and some of the success that you've had there. And you talked earlier about how you cried when Jason won the first ISC tournament that he won. How'd you feel when you won your first ISC tournament with this team that went on to have a little bit of a real big dynasty?
Shaking like a leaf. It's plain and simple. When I took the team in 2014, and I think in the 2013, I think the boys lost 1 game the whole season. And I take the team over in 2014, and we go down to Florida, and we get bounced out like in the first round of playoffs. And I say, holy shit, like this is not good. This is not good, you know. And I knew when I took it over, I had nowhere to go but down because they were so successful. But Florida and not doing so well, I said, oh my goodness, we're in trouble here. But anyway, the season went on in 2014, and we were lucky, we won. And you know what, Chris, you could pinch me and like you could pinch me with a pair of pliers and I wouldn't have felt a thing. And I was lucky that I had Larry Lynch with me, and Larry had been around for a number of years, and I was feeling it. There's no doubt about it. Like the hairs on the back of my neck were rising and stuff like that. And we won a championship. It wasn't about me. It was about being around guys like Lally was there and Jason were there as players and that. And it just sent shivers up my spine. And I remember in June when I first took the team over, and the first thing I did was Adam Folker showed up, and like, Adam Folker. And I said, okay, I'm coaching it. You're coaching Adam. So me and him, I said, come on, Adam, we're going for a drive. So him and I went off, and I said, you know, Adam, I'm new on the block, blah, 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 like that. And him and I chatted like for an hour. And I said, we got to work on the same page. It was tremendous. And he was so cooperative. I mean, Adam, in 2014, and Adam Folker was the best, you know, the very best. And he's inarguably still the best right now. So to move in from coaching Newfoundland at the Canadian Nationals to taking over a team like the Hilly United Chiefs was for me was very intimidating. There's no question about it. But I always said, you go in, keep your ears open and keep your mouth shut. And that's how I did Florida. And then, you know, we came into the ball seasons and let things play out. And it was that experience in 2014 when an ASA and ISC like is something that I'll never forget ever.
Yeah, that whole experience was unbelievable. And the fact that we got to do all that together, but you know, the season just didn't play out. I remember another key moment in that year this is post Florida. It was the actual start of the ISC season. And Jace, you'll probably remember this meeting that we had, first team meeting of official going into the 2014 season. And John Hill is addressing the team for the first time. And I think it might've been up under the tree. Do you remember we were up under a tree at a hotel sitting down on a bank, and Johnny was addressing the team for the first time. And that's what I have written down here, John. And I'm not sure if it comes from your cop background or what. Just, I know you say you're intimidated. It didn't come across like that at all. But when you stood up to address that team for the first time, you had everybody's attention, and you kind of commanded that respect, and it really brought you into the team, set the direction. But what do you remember about that first team meeting when you're looking out at the defending champions that you're now going to be guiding the ship?
Oh, shit-baked. Plain and simple. And like you said, I'm used to hiding stuff, but I looked, you know, like the comforting part about it was that I looked at you, I looked at Jason, I looked at Bradley, and guys that I had coached. And I looked at other guys like that I probably had coached in the past or been a part of. So I knew everybody, but I'll make no bones about it. I was, intimidated by what I was about to take on, but I welcomed the challenge with open arms. And I didn't want to come in and, strong arm like you said, Stephen. I looked like I might have commanded something, but never, ever like that. It was just trying to say, hey, you know what, I'm coaching the team, but you guys are going to make me good or bad. However, you guys play good, I look good. You guys play bad, I'll look bad. It was like I'm looking and I'm saying, what a group of ball have here. Like I'm in awe. I really am. And I'm fascinated by what the players have, and I'm even more fascinated by everybody looking at me and saying, Johnny Hill's talking and everybody's looking at me, But I guess like Stephen or Lally over the years, like a lot of people knew who I was, what I was about, and stuff like that. So it wasn't a flash in the pan. Like I always said, like, and without being modest, I didn't back in any of these jobs I had. Like I started back in minor ball when I was 10 years old, from playing to start coaching back in when I was like 22, 23, from squirt, peewee, bantam, midget, junior, senior nationals, Canadian team, ISC circuit. So, I hold nothing back from, I didn't back in any of these jobs, and I didn't look for any of them. I just did my job, and I was fortunate enough that the Hilly United Chiefs found something in me, and Softball Canada found something in me. So I'm forever ever thankful for that opportunity. But I never ever looked for any of that stuff. I just wanted to bring success to bring out the successes to the talent that we had in Newfoundland. I knew there's a lot of talent there. I knew we had to bring it together, and my mission was to do that. And I think over the years that we've accomplished a whole lot. And we've made ourselves a good mark in softball on the national and international level. And for that, I'm forever thankful, because back in when I played, we didn't have that opportunity. And that's what I think about always. Like I always go back whenever I meet with the guys I play with, Hilly, what's going on, Hilly? What's going on, Hilly? And I'll tell them exactly the same thing I'm telling you guys. Our guys back in the day were every bit as good as you guys. Every bit as good as you guys. They did not have the exposure and the opportunity to excel like you guys did. And that's the difference. And you guys made a huge sacrifice to commit yourselves to playing every weekend, going away, hitting the road and playing every weekend, 5-6 games a weekend, and coming back home again. And then you guys got comfortable playing extended weekends, playing 6-7 games, facing the best pitching in the world, playing against the best ball players in the world. And you guys stood tall.
Yeah, I love that you kind of preface that none of these jobs were handed to you. There's a lot of talk about players paying dues, sacrifices on that. When anyone who knows you and look what you've done in the game, it was a grind. It was putting the work in, believing in yourself, having a vision, sticking to it, and it paved the way for a lot of the success the ball players have had. But just sticking on Hill United that year you came in, and Jace, you're playing on Hill United. You've been carving out your own ISC path, and now you get to see your dad come on and coach your ISC team. You're now a core member to the national team. What was that like for you to now, you're going to the ballpark every game pretty much with your dad coaching? What was that transition like at the top level for you?
It was exhausting. You know what? Like from the coaching side, like it was nothing new to me, really. Like he coached me from day one, so it was, it was same old for me. The thing is, always for me is it's like I said, it's nothing on the coaching side. For me, it's always like how other people perceive, the father son coaching, especially at that level. But like from my standpoint, it's nothing new, nothing different for me. And he always had that the line was drawn. As soon as we got to the ballpark, it's not Johnny, it's not Dad, it's Coach Hill type thing, right? And but aside from that, to the success we had, to have him there to share that with him, and to, like, you know, for front row seat, you're coaching, you're a part of this now. You're not up in the stands crying like a little baby. You're on the field, and you're a part of it. And, you know, and when you're doing these handshakes after we won our ISCs or ASAs, whatever it was, you're doing the hugs, and then, you know, you get to the old man, you get the pops, right? And you give him a hug, and like, yeah, we did it. And you share that moment, man. It's cool, man. It's been wild ride, special.
John, you know, on this podcast, has been talked about a number of times, the 2015 year with the Pan Ams and the Worlds and all the club team success. And you guys listening from other countries and other club teams are probably sick of hearing about it. But we've always just gotten the players' perspective. And I want to know for you, you know, that's because it's not a long period of time, right? It's like 6 to 8 weeks, maybe at most. How do you, as a coach, keep these players on task? How do you manage the day-to-day? What was that challenge like for you guys, and especially you being involved on both the national and the club team, to make sure that these horses you had were at the top of their game the whole time?
Well, it's like everything. You know, we have a network set up that we charge. Like Adam Davies is our trainer, so he keeps on top of the boys with the training schedule and doing all the stuff they have to do to keep themselves in top-notch shape, and plus the scouting part of it. Like, we're watching all the time. Like, I'm fortunate enough to be with the Chiefs, so I get to travel to all these major tournaments. I get to watch all the players, scout all the players, and you know, that part of it all helps. But do you know what? Like, it's all about knowing the ball players. Like, there's nobody can fake being real, because they had to perform on the field. So you can listen to guys over the winter saying, yeah, I'm doing this, yeah, I'm doing that, and everything else. But nothing replaces seeing the guys play and watching them and seeing how their physical conditioning is, and see how they perform and play, and so on and so forth. So you always have to keep an eye open for that stuff. Like, everybody wants to be on the national team, and I don't blame them. But you know what? There's not a lot of people want to do what it takes to be part of the national team. So that's the stuff that we have to keep our eyes open for, and make sure that guys are there for the right reason. You know, if you want to be on part of the national team, then you got to go over and above to do what it takes to be part of that team, because there's, you know, 5,000 ball players out there want to wear that jersey, but you got to do what you got to do to get to where you need to go, and you got to show us that you want to do that.
You look back at that year, right? So I think anybody on here can tell your passion for Newfoundland softball, can tell your passion for the national team program, just softball in general at a high level. When I look back at that year, though, in 2015, you had a pretty unique set of circumstances going into that. You had to wear a bunch of different hats. So the very first couple of tournaments, you're wearing your national team coaching hat, right? You're out now coaching against other countries, a lot of top players on those teams that you coach club ball. We go out and get through that. Then the very next weekend, you got to put on your Hilly United hat and coach these players who just played the top tournaments in the world against each other, and come back together and try and defend an ASA championship, an ISC championship. And then after that, going into the nationals, I know in that year you're still a part of Newfoundland, you stepped away, but we all know how involved you still were in the nationals. Now you're back coaching with Newfoundland against the other Canadian guys that you coached on the national team. How did you navigate those different responsibilities, and more specifically around coming out of the Team Canada events and then bringing back everybody together on the Hill United Chiefs? How did you kind of level set that after the Canadian victories?
Well, when you look at it, the Hill United Chiefs in 2015, I mean, we were a team of representing many nations at the WBSC championships and the Pan Am Games. So you know what, like, we're all alike. We're all the same. Like, there's no different than you or Jason or Bradley that played in Clary. Like, you know what, like, we were a band of brothers when we played the WBSC, and then we were a band of brothers when we played Pan Am Games, and we won both tournaments. And then, you know what, like, we were Team Canada. We played for our flag. And once that was over, we took our hats off and put on our Hill United Chiefs jerseys and said, okay, let's move forward. Now, it's tough. after winning a WBSC and winning the Pan Am Games, like that's amazing. That's a spoonful for anybody. But you know what? We took on the Hill United Chiefs jersey, and I'm not even going to begin to talk about our sponsorship, how good they are to us, because I think everybody knows about that. But then to play for the Hill United Chiefs, we did something in 2015 that Canada has never done, was win the Pan Am and WBSC, and then to put the Hill United Chiefs hat on and band together with guys that we played against in the WBSC and Pan Ams, and then go on a mission to win the ASA with American National Championships, and to go forward then to the ISC Championships, like, was absolutely unbelievable. And you know what? Like, everybody who didn't play for Canada that played for the Chiefs, we all banded together. Like, it was over. Okay, guys, you know what? We won Pan Ams, we won WBSC. Okay, right now we're Hill United Chiefs. And it was in the past. We might have talked about it for a night. There was nobody making fun, no one making jabs at each other. You guess what? We have a new band of brothers right now, and it's the Hill United Chiefs. And that's exactly how it operated. And we stuck together hugely in 2015. And we did the ASA and the ISC, and certainly the rest is history. So it happens. You know what? I'm a manager. I manage the resources that I'm given, and it's up to you guys to do what you have to do. And you know what? You guys did it in flying colors, and everybody else who was part of that team did the same thing. Let's go be the best club team in the world. And that's what you guys did. You guys did it. You know, the program was put in place for you guys. It was up to you guys to do it. You could have fought with each other, and, you know, Australian versus Argentina and blah, blah, blah. Never ever happened. Never ever heard tell of it, ever, in the history of the Chiefs family. So you guys are responsible for that. You guys are the ones that resonated, that made the team that it is right now. Well,
I mean, that's fantastic breakdown of it, and I can see you not taking any single little bit of credit for any of the success, which is what the good coaches do, good managers do. John, I know we're taking up a lot of your time here, so we don't want to go too much longer, but I'm curious, for somebody with a 50-plus year history in the game, it might be hard to answer this question, but is there a top moment that you've had in this game above all else?
Two things. 2012 in Fredericton was a surreal moment for me, albeit it was tainted by the rains. So I fast forward to 2013 in Stratford. Number one. Number two was winning the World Championships with the Hill United Chiefs. That was ASA and ISC was above and beyond. And then 2015, winning the WBSC and the Pan Am Games in Toronto. That, for me, is a lifetime of victories. Most coaches, managers don't ever get to sample any of those accomplishments. And to have to knock down the four of them, like in 1 year, like, it was just mind blowing. But you know what? All it did was propel me to do better, to be better. And but if you want to ask about the best, those moments stand out in my mind more than anything.
Yeah, it's a pretty special career when you look back at what you've been able to do as a coach, and how dedicated you are and how much you love the sport. But Johnny, you were talking about managing the team, right? It's not so much coaching at that high level now. And you have a very interesting take. You talked to Jason and I and Bradley about it a bunch of times, because we've had the privilege of playing with you for so long at different stages of our life. And you had a pretty insightful outlook on how you had to adjust your management style and coaching style as the career went along with those same ball players. But can you just give a little bit of insight on how you navigated that and adjusted your coaching style as our career went along?
Well, when I first took the Chiefs over, it was pretty simple. Like, we had a absolutely awesome ball team, and all you guys, like, softball was your life. You lived for softball. And then as time passed, we moved on in years. Guys got married, guys got houses, mortgages, children. And I could see, over the course of time, that all of a sudden softball wasn't your life. It was a game. And then the challenge came in, because I had no problem getting you guys connected for a weekend because it's softball. There's nothing else in your mind but softball. And all of a sudden, came along, like I said, the marriages and kids and stuff like that. And I get it and I appreciate it. And I'm so, so happy to be a part of watching a lot of you guys grow up from being young snots that you were to getting married and having kids and that. There's nobody in the whole world happier than me, but it made, my job tougher as a manager because I had to get you guys focused on softball, which I didn't have to do before. It was just happen. As soon as you put that uniform on, your two eyeballs lit up and let's play ball. Then all of a sudden it became a game instead of a lifestyle. And that challenge was there. And I saw it, and I said, you know what, we got to have a meeting, a team meeting. I remember that we had the meeting down somewhere in the States, Lolly, and I said exactly what I'm saying now, and how proud and happy I was of you, and how much more difficult you made my job as a manager because now I had to motivate you guys more than before. That made it a little bit more difficult, but you know what? It's you guys responded, and we had that meeting, and you looked at me, and I remember. Like Nick Shales was on our team, and he said, "We're having a players meeting after you speak, John." And I said, "Okay, no problem." And we had the meeting, and I remember I had like 5 words written down on a piece of paper, and it took me like 45 minutes to talk about these 5 words. And anyway, me and Larry Lynch, we left the meeting, and then Nick had a players meeting with you guys, and it lasted about 5 minutes, right? And you came out, and I said, "Shit, Nick, that was quick." And he said, mate, what else was left to say? You said it all, right? You said it all, exactly the way it was. So that was rewarding. And I bet you we went on, we won the ISC, but you could see the transition from back when I took the team on in 2014 and fast forward like the 7 years and how your lives changed from being like, you just knock a fence down to play a game of softball, being your passion. And it always will be your passion, but along the way, things get in the way.
Well, Fast Pitch fans, it's an exciting time of year. We got the 2022 Winter Classic from Fort Myers, Florida, kicking off Friday, January 28th, and running through Sunday, January 30th. And the broadcast team that brought you the 2021 ISC World Tournament, Luciano Lafrano of La Liga Softball TV and Blair Setford will be on hand to bring you all the action. Kicking off Thursday night, January 27th, with an exhibition game featuring the current ISC World Tournament champions, the Hill United Chiefs, taking on the U.S. men's national team at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and potentially the Czech national team at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look for the broadcast schedule on the USA Softball website.
You just said something about knocking down a fence, John, and I don't know if you want to tell the story, but that's one of the best stories I've ever heard about you. So can you please tell me the story about knocking down the fence at your parents' place?
Okay. I was young. I was probably, I don't know, just started playing with Labatt. Now, funny with Labatt in the St. John's Molson Senior League, but I played for Labatt, and my parents were out of town, and we had a little party at the house, and I had this bat I used to use. It was a 35-ounce Adirondack bat. Now, some of the older guys that maybe listen would understand what that means, but it was an awesome bat. And I had my softball team up at my parents' house because they were out of town, and I was showing off and everything, and with all the veterans there. And anyway, we got chitty-chatting and stuff, and I said, "This bat is so strong it can knock down a patio." And they, "You're kidding." And I went out on my parents' patio and knocked the shit out of it, right? With the bat. And I never even put a dent in the bat, right? And anyway, I wake up the next day and I look out and there's, oh shit, pieces of the patio all over the place. So I had a quick fix to go, but that bat never had a dent into it. It was an awesome bat. Adirondack 35-ounce. That's what we used back in the day. And now I know you guys are using like 26, 27 ounces. And the bats we used then were the balls were like made out of wool, basically. You know, they weren't made out of cork. They were made out of wool. And so we had to use the heavier bats and stuff to try to hit a home run. So the game has changed big time, but I still love it.
No. Well, Johnny, we're trying to fit in I would call it like trying to fit in 10 seasons of Game of Thrones into an hour and 20-minute podcast. So there's no way we can go through everything that you've done in the game, but we were excited to get you on because I don't think of anyone I know, what you've done, what you've put into, and what you've accomplished in the sport of softball, and how that trickle-down effect has had not only on the careers of some of the individuals we talked, Jason, me, Bradley, and some of the people that are playing today, but the impact it had on the province, to see you now having such success at the ISC and international level. As a player and a friend and a guy who wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today and done what I've done, I do want to take this opportunity on here to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you did for us, for the province, and really special to me and all of us on here to be able to sit back 20 years later, still doing it, and talk about it on a podcast. But Jace, you know, when you look back on this episode and everything we talked about, you know, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, no, just a couple of things for me, and just kind of to wrap it up. It was I know most of the stories, right? Like I listen to them every weekend over a beer down at Bruins Boulevard, but no, but they're good stories, right? And I felt like they should be told, and it's always great to hear them again. And yeah, firstly, it was just great to have you on, and secondly, we'll see you Sunday for turkey dinner.
Yeah. No, but Abby, we talked about this now for a while, wanting you to come on here. It's really special to have you be a part of this. I know that a lot of the experience we talked about were special to you in your childhood and what you've seen going up through the game, but it was great to have you on here, kind of steering the ship on the podcast. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think firstly, you know, John talked about playing with my father, Keith, and my uncle Vern, who are Colin's brothers. So, you know, maybe people don't know, but I mean, the Hills are basically honorary abbots. So it's, you know, it's great to get on here and chat. And I mean it when I say, like, any memory I have of this sport, John's there. So like when I was a kid in the dugout with the Labatt's team, when he started the minor softball, when he cut me from the Canada Games in the chalet in Pleasantville, which we didn't get into, but you know, I don't hold a grudge. To playing together again at the senior level and all that stuff. So you know, John's been there for everything, and then into the broadcasting. He's been a big supporter as well. So I'm glad you had me on to be a part of this, because I think, you know, he's touched the careers of us three, but so many other people as well, and it was fun to be a part of doing this.
Yeah, well, Johnny, it's been awesome to reflect on a lot of what you've done. We haven't really got into what's coming down the pipe. We didn't really touch on this past season with the Hill United Chiefs, but we're gonna get on and have some fun, maybe some on location things with the Chiefs as we go up. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, there's going to be a big year for John Hill and the teams that you're a part of, but hopefully, fingers crossed, here in another week and a half, get to see you down in Florida, suit back up with the Chiefs. Looking forward to seeing the national team in April down in Argentina, and then the ISC season, and then hopefully culminating with that WBSC down in New Zealand at the end of the year. And can't wait to get going with you. Thanks for coming on, Johnny.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I enjoyed every minute of it, and nice talking to you guys. And like you said, there's probably a lot of more stories to be told, but some of them are probably best kept untold. But you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure to be on board. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and have a chat with you guys, and all the very best. And before I go, I'll just say one thing, that none of this wouldn't have happened for me if it wasn't for the successes of you guys. So thank you very much for that.
That's awesome, Johnny. And well, listen, Hilly, we got
no problem, Dad.
Well, Jace, I got to say, I got to keep throwing Jace out here with the Hillys on, but you know, we can't sign off the episode. I can't do it when we got a professional guy, podcast broadcaster. Abby, I got to throw the sign off to you, buddy.
Well, that brings to a conclusion episode 17 of Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly with this week's guest, John Hill. John, thanks so much for sharing your career, your experiences, your frustrations, and your successes with us. It's been absolutely wonderful. And Lucas and Nick can take us out of here with some Rum Racket.
Ladies man, but I'm unhappy now. For courting 6 girls all at once they used me.
Bye-bye baseball!
My mother said it was naughty, I should kiss her goodbye. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very